Good afternoon, folks, and welcome back to another episode of South of the Cheddar Curtain. As always, it's your boy, Devin Hine, sitting across the now Teams screen. We've moved to Teams.
Yep. Skype is dead. R.I.P. Skype.
It was great while I lasted Skype, but we are back sitting across the Teams screen for Mr. Lucas Mueller. You want to start with the folks, Luke?
Hello, folks.
Folks, it is June 25th, the year of our Lord 2025. Lucas and I were not quite back in action immediately after the draft as we would have liked. However, the delay has given us more perspective on what this roster looks like going into, training camp and going into the preseason, ultimately the Super Bowl championship that will be the 2025 Green Bay Packers season. And I think this is actually a pretty good point for us to recap what has happened. We have, solidified answers with the Jair situation, and we're going to bring you a wonderful episode today, not only going through all of our wonderful draft picks, but also how the team looks going into the next phase.
Exactly. And I think that this little bit of time, like you said, kind of solidified some things on the roster and clarified, gave us some answers to questions we didn't necessarily know the answer to 2 months ago or a month ago or whatever it was. So I'm excited to break these guys down as always. We love the draft, right? And we love, as Andy Herman would put it, unwrapping the presents afterwards. So let's talk about some draft picks, shall we?
Indeed we shall. Well, our Green Bay Packers, we had an idea. We were going to make a big move round one, right? The draft being in Green Bay for the first time ever. It was a momentous occasion. And for a momentous occasion, we had a momentous first round pick. The 22-year streak of not drafting a wide receiver in the first round has ended, folks, as the Green Bay Packers went down to Texas, took Matthew Golden, 23rd overall, wide receiver, bit of a burner. Rewatching his film, he actually does run the route tree really well. Like, he's not just going to be an MVS one-trick pony. He can beat you with both his burner speed, but his also ability to create separation, on outs, ins, little drags. He's got quite the repertoire, and I think that he is going to be a home run for us.
I agree completely. Obviously, you can go back and listen to our pre-draft one. Matthew Golden is somebody we talked about pretty extensively, and I was reminded after the draft that I was quoted saying that he cannot make you miss in a phone booth, right? It's kind of one of my big takeaways, which I still believe is correct, but I feel like he's going to fill a nice hole for us. Good, like you said, good route runner, high drop rate, but overall has good sticky hands. It looks like a natural hands catcher catching away from his body. He's got deep speed. I'm still a little skeptical on the 4.29 speed. I think he's more of a 4.35 type of guy. But earlier in his career, he seemed to show that off a little bit more while he was at Houston. So maybe he had a little weight. Who knows what Texas exactly asked of him. But really excited about this. I think he's a really well-rounded receiver that still brings that burner element without being, like you said, just an MVS straight line. That's all he's going to do for you guy. So he has the potential, I think, to be really top-tier wide receiver 2, wide receiver 1 kind of guy. Super excited about him. Sounds like he's been doing great so far through the early stages of camp. And just, man, what a moment that was, right? Especially Mark Murphy coming out, his last draft for the Packers, right? Coming out, really leading the fans along, bringing that up. Mentioned it for the first time in 22 years, and then just the crowd goes absolutely nuts. Like, What a moment. And what a moment for this guy to be able to walk out on stage to that crowd. It's just phenomenal, and I wish nothing but the best for him. Super excited to see him play. And he's a good example of someone that kind of stepped up their competition and stepped up their game as well, going from Houston to Texas for his final year. So I'm excited, man. This is going to be fun. It's going to be a really fun toy for Jordan Love to play with.
Oh, for sure. And apparently, like you said, they're already clicking early in OTAs. Matthew Golden kind of turned some heads when he chose 22, but then we all heard for his jersey,
garbage number.
All learned the background for that because it was 2 was his grandma's favorite number, and he plays for his grandma.
I love that. Still a bad number.
Yeah, don't love it for wide receiver. I think the only notable wide receiver in the 20s is Cliff Branch, Raiders. The autumn wind is a Raider. We won't go back there, but old burner from back in the day, back in the 80s.
I would really talk to Malik, see if you get number 2 off him. That's what I would have done.
Yeah. But you know what? It's a good story. I know you don't love the
aesthetics of it are not great.
The aesthetics aren't great, but with the story, I'm cool with it.
Yeah, I'm fine with it.
So second round, kind of lost my mind with this pick originally, and now
we both, my friend.
In hindsight, I'm feeling slightly better about it. We'll get into this later. We took Anthony Belton, who is listed as an offensive tackle out of, I believe, NC State, Lucas?
Correct.
He's listed as an offensive tackle. I personally believe he is just a miniature mountain that wears a football jersey. He is an absolute mauler. This gentleman is 6'6", 335 pounds. Heaviest lineman we've had since Will Whitaker in 2005. And the tallest since the Italian Bruno Giacomini in 2008. Remember that guy? He was on the Jets for a bit.
I do.
Packers.com with some fun facts for us to share
Love
today.
that.
But he's potentially going to be, as I believe you said after the draft, a Rasheed Walker replacement, because Rasheed Walker's contract is going to be up, and he has played well enough to get paid big money.
Even if he's not great. I mean, not great. Average tackles are getting $20 million a year type of vibe. So it's a little crazy, and we're just adding people to the room, which we'll talk about later. But yeah,
adding people to the room. He can be like your sixth guy off the bench like in basketball. We did see in the playoffs how not having healthy offensive lineman backup were a problem, but I could also see us using him in like a six offensive line front and just absolutely maul. Like put the man at fullback.
Destroy someone.
What's that?
Yeah, he would destroy someone if we had a goal line situation. Yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. So drafted to be a tackle. There's some reports who might move him around to guard. I mean, it's the Packers. We draft these linemen and put him wherever except for center. So anticipate him moving around throughout training camp and in preseason, and we'll see where he sticks. But probably not going to be a starter unless somebody goes down to injury this season.
Yeah, he better not be, right? Things are not going well if he's starting this year, given that our tackle depth looks pretty decent now with Jordan Morgan. But I think this draft as a whole, and he's a great example of this, really interesting because we went outside our norms, right? The Packers are pretty particular when it comes to height, weight, speed, or agility metrics when it comes to their different position groups. And this one, we kind of threw it out the window. Even if you go back to Matthew Golden, he's on the very small edge, the very, very low edge. I think Goody even mentioned he is the Mendoza line, essentially. He is the smallest wide receiver we would take, right? And Anthony Belton is way bigger than any offensive lineman we've taken in recent memory, like you said. So really interested to see kind of what they do with him. They're going to bring him along very slowly. I expect he's going to have kind of a similar season with probably even less playing time than Jordan Morgan did last year. But mountain of a man. I think they're trying to I don't know. I think they're trying to rewrite the offense here a little bit, kind of stylistically, by adding some more bigger maulers, because even Aaron Banks would have been our biggest offensive lineman until now, right? Until we took Belton. So I think they're trying to get bigger, more mauling, and he's a step in that direction. And like you said, gives us some insurance down the road. I was still going crazy, though. I was like, corner, anybody, somebody, something, not another offensive tackle, please.
I am sure I sent texts along the same idea, probably with a few adult words in there, knowing me. But,
yep.
We're going to get to the
100%.
cornerback room later. To our next pick, let's kind of piggy off what you're talking about. How about, reframing the offensive line? We brought in these two big maulers. And I think that this guy is going to be able to take advantage of a lot of the opportunities that our now mauling offensive line will provide for us. I'm circling around. I'll bring you back. Don't worry. So third round, we take quote-unquote wide receiver, Savion Williams out of TCU. He's 6'4". He's got dreads. He sounds just like Cordell Patterson because he is Cordell Patterson. He's a jack of all trades. You can put him out wide. He can run a 50-50 fade, go up and get it. But we also saw Savion Williams play a lot of Wildcat quarterback, a lot of just like direct snaps, power reads. Mm-hmm. And that brings me to the idea, the thought process of getting this guy on the field. When you line up for an offensive play, the offense puts out their personnel before the defense does. So the defense has to match. So if the Packers send out, Savion Williams, Dontavian Wicks, Matthew Golden, Romeo Doubs, and Jaden Reed, sending out 5 wide, defense probably responds with a dime.
Yeah, probably.
4 down linemen, 1 linebacker, everyone else in the secondary, which is expected because you're expecting they're going to pass, except you have Savion Williams who can just bring in a running back and then run power down their throat. This gentleman who can play both receiver and running back is going to create a lot of mismatches, and I anticipate us using him in defenses where we get light boxes and being able to use his speed and physicality to win and get cheap yards for this offense.
I really like that little breakdown. A lot of things come to mind potentially when you get somebody of this who's like this. I mean, could he be our tush-push quarterback instead of Tucker Kraft? Maybe, right? That could be an interesting option. Is he going to play some running back? Maybe. That could be interesting. Is he going to replace, which we haven't really seen very effective recently, but Christian Watson's rookie jet sweeps? That'd be awesome because Jaden Reed is not great at them, right? But Savion's a little bit closer to that archetype of Christian Watson. He has incredible vision for wide receiver, obviously, because he played a lot of running back and, like you said, quarterback. That's the interesting thing about him is they played him at so many positions, and even now, look, he's not an actual quarterback, but the rumor was he had the best arm on the TCU roster.
May not be saying much.
But still pretty impressive, right?
Agreed.
Now, where things get a little tricky is his route running. There's not a lot there.
No.
Right? Which it's one of those situations where how much of that is his fault because they just used him however they could to get him the ball. So he's bigger, stronger, faster than most people. They're just going to send him deep or on hitches or something or hand the ball to him, right? They just did whatever they could to get him the football. What does that look like at the NFL level? How quickly can he pick up different route concepts? All that kind of stuff we won't know for a while yet. But what we do know is he has Jekyll and Hyde hands. What I mean by that is he has some incredible catches on film. Incredible. I'm talking one-handed in the end zone, like crazy catches. He also dropped a lot of footballs. So it's interesting that the two wide receivers we picked both kind of had drop issues this last season. Now, Savion Williams, most of his, or almost half of his, came in one game, like week 3 of the season or something, so that kind of skews it. But can he fix the hands? Can he develop route running? Do we care? And he's just Cordell Patterson, and it doesn't matter, like that phenomenal season he had a couple years ago with the Falcons. Who knows? Who knows what's going to happen with this guy, but he is going to be so much fun, and every time he's on the field, I'm going to want him to get the football.
I know that I was a much bigger fan of the Tyler Ervin experience than you were, but it was fun to watch what LaFleur do with him. And Tyler Ervin is the most gadget player we've probably ever had.
Yeah,
which isn't really saying much. So to get this caliber of athlete with his size, with his speed, with his strength, we're really going to see what Coach LaFleur can cook up for the season.
It's going to be fascinating because the difference between him and Tyler Ervin is he can actually play receiver a little bit, right? The difference between him and Christian Watson is he can play running back a little bit, right? Versus how they were used in some of those specialty situations. Him versus Jaden Reed, he's just bigger, stronger, faster than Jaden Reed, so that helps, right? It's going to be really interesting, but I expect we're going to see a lot of screens, a lot of go routes, and a lot of jet sweeps, if I had to guess.
I think that is a safe prediction, and I like that as well, because like you said, with his route running, it's not going to be super crisp. Doesn't mean we can't work on it, but to begin the season, he's probably going to be the worst route runner that we have. So send him on a jet sweep, nice and easy, let him develop over time.
Absolutely.
To the 4th round we go, and this is a very special pick.
This was.
So we took defensive end Baron Sorrell out of Texas. So instead of Goody going down to Georgia, we went down to Texas twice this draft. Go Longhorns. And he was actually at the draft and got to go up on stage and had the whole experience, which is pretty unheard of for a 4th round pick.
Yeah, never happens.
But it was just meant for him to be a Packer. I think he said he had a feeling going in, and I couldn't be happier to be happier for this guy, and we got this guy. On the tape, he honestly reminds me a lot of Lucas Van Ness. A little more juice, really strong with his hands, but he's not necessarily going to fly right by you. Definitely more of the power rusher archetype.
Which we love.
Throw him into the mix. Maybe he's able to take JJ Enagbari's job, but it's another guy that can hopefully make a difference in this pass rush because Lord knows we've needed the help. I think we both anticipated that we might have been taking somebody a little bit sooner.
Yep.
But from what I've learned about this young man, don't count him out. I'm excited to see what he can do.
So a couple things about this guy. One, he had 20 8 reps in the bench press. This dude is built, right? This is a strong man. And you can see that even like the shirt he was wearing. He had giant traps, giant shoulders, big arms, a big chest. Like, this is a big, strong dude. And now he's shorter than Lucas Van Ness. He's, 6'4" or whatever he is. But he is very built, very thick, very powerful. So that'll be really interesting, kind of where he fits in, how he develops in the system, and how he contributes, because we keep, until a little bit later in the draft, we keep getting very similar archetype guys, right? And they're all contributors, right? JJ's not the same archetype, but Enigbari's, he's a contributor. We're hoping Lucas Van Ness this year is a little bit more of a contributor. We don't really have that guy, right? Obviously, hope LVN can be that guy. Gary has shown he can be almost that guy, but it feels like we have a collection of 6 to 8 sack guys. You know what I mean? And maybe potentially that can be enough because you get consistent pressure every single play and just people taking turns getting sacks. I'm all good with that.
You get enough. You get 4 or 5 of those guys like that, and you're set.
Right. That kind of seems to be what we're doing for the most part. This guy, what I loved about him is what came out after the draft. Goody talked to every Texas player they brought in. They brought in a lot of Texas players this year. Every Texas player they brought in, they asked the same question. If you could come to the team and bring one person with you, who are you bringing? Every single person said Baron Sorrell, because he is loved. He was loved in that locker room. Everyone respected his incredible work ethic and how much effort he put in to try to better the program and himself. That's the kind of guy you want on the team, right? That's the kind of guy that's going to step in his rookie year, take whatever role you give him, and do his best, right? So we're not going to see probably a huge flashy rookie year from him, but I think he gets, probably a handful of sacks, plays some good run defense. He's strong. He really set an edge very well, which is nice, especially compared to potentially some of our other guys. This is a very interesting pick, and I think he, once again, just adds to the room. I'm not sure he's going to be a huge difference maker anytime soon, but he's making the room a little bit better, a little bit more competitive.
I'm happy that you brought up how savvy of a run defender he is, because once I finished talking, I was like, oh my God, that was my whole point on him from this morning's film study, was that he is so good at penetrating and sealing the edge. Multiple times you see teams try to do a jet sweep, and often in jet sweeps, that defensive end on the side that you're sweeping to is just left. Like, we've seen Lucas Van Ness,
Gary
and Enigbari and everybody else who plays that defensive end outside linebacker hybrid role for us over the past few years get absolutely cooked on those. And it's just like, you're right there, but Mr. Sorrell does not miss those. So maybe he can teach the boys in the room something about staying home and setting the edge.
That would be great. I was really excited for him and for that moment. Like you said, that was incredible. They had him come out. He was outside, right, taking pictures with the selfie stick or whatever, and doing circles, and all the fans there. What an incredible moment. One of many in this draft for the Packers, which is really cool. And he's going to be a contributor. He's going to help the defensive line 100%.
Absolutely. But speaking of moments.
For
our next pick, somebody on the show hit this nail on the head. This prospect that nobody was talking about before the draft, I'm sure. Few people. I mean, potentially UDFA kind of guy. But by golly, 5th round, Green Bay Packers taking Colin Oliver, defensive end out of Oklahoma State. This is the gentleman who is an extreme Packers pick because he flashed his freshman year. He led the Big 12 in sacks.
That's incredible.
Great. And then didn't do anything the next 2 seasons. And as you said, is kind of like a light diet light version of Micah Parsons. Mm-hmm. I mean, on the film, I was first surprised to learn that he was 6'2", 240 because he looks absolutely tiny. He looks like a hamster out there. And when you see him rush the quarterback, he also looks like a hamster in the wheel. I mean, the man's got explosiveness, right? I've seen a couple plays. I believe you had mentioned when you picked him, just talking him up, that he isn't just, a defensive end, like rush outside linebacker. They also did drop him in coverage. And there were a couple plays that I saw where it appears to me that he's man-to-man on the running back, or he's covering the flat out of like an empty set and everyone just bails. So it's like a millisecond of explosion, and all of a sudden he's on the quarterback. Like he is a Ferrari in that sense. He just feels like a small Ferrari that's good at one thing. And it's going to be interesting to see if we can keep him on the roster because I don't buy the 6'2", whatever he's listed at. Like, I just feel if you line him up on first down, so an offensive tackle is going to throw him into the stands next to us in Lambeau. Interesting pick, interesting upside if you can find ways to stunt him in on later downs. But so I feel like at this level, it's going to have to be mismatches against offensive tackles that are a little slow, where he can break back to the inside or just beat you straight off the gun on the outside, or you break free from a stunt. Because if an offensive lineman gets his hands on this dude, I feel like he's going to go flying. But this is your boy, so
this is my guy.
Give him all the flowers.
Let's just take a second to remember that I did get this one right. Because while there are parts of him that are very Packers pick, he is very outside the realm of what we look for in edge rushers.
I led with the fact that you took it.
You did.
I gave you your praise.
I'm just going to bring it up again because I just started running around the house when we picked this guy. I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe I got one right, much less this guy, right? Man, this is going to be fun. Don't be surprised, right, if he looks like an absolute monster in preseason.
Oh my God.
Him against third, fourth stringers, he's going to destroy them. Because he is so fast. I mean, his explosiveness is really, you're talking like top end of the draft pass rusher, right? If you just take that aspect of him. That
it's
explosion,
elite.
It really is. That first step, it's incredible. But like you said, he's a little dude.
Yeah.
In comparison, right? He's 6'2", 240. That's not a small guy, but it is smaller than like all of our linebackers, not edge rushers, like the linebackers, right? Smaller than Quay, a little shorter than Cooper, right? Definitely smaller than McDuffie. That's not a very big man, and he doesn't have long arms. He actually has kind of short arms for his size, relatively, which also is kind of a knock against him because at least if you're short and you have a very long wingspan, long reach, you can play the games with the tackle farther away, right? You can keep him kind of at bay a little bit more, but he has short arms. The interesting part, though, outside of his explosiveness, is that there are also some reps on tape of him just like kind of tossing tackles that weigh 100 pounds more than him. Like, dude can really translate that speed to power a little bit as well. Now, that will only happen if he catches them off guard, or if they're expecting some sort of speed move, which is what happened a couple times. And then he just got right into the chest and just bench pressed that dude away from him and tossed him, which is impressive. Not going to happen a lot at the NFL level. He also played some off-ball linebacker at Oklahoma State, and I expect I don't think he's going to be an off-ball linebacker for us, but I think that versatility is definitely something that we're going to look into a little bit. I wouldn't be surprised if he's the emergency off-ball linebacker. We ran into that issue last year, right, where we had a bunch of injuries to the linebacker room, and all of a sudden we were like, okay, well, who's linebacker 3, right? I think he could step in at times, if necessary, due to injuries at that position. But really excited about what he's going to look like because he is a pass rusher. We generally don't take these guys, but having a designated pass rusher that you can put in on 2nd and 20, on 3rd and 10, whatever, when the other team is down late in the game, and just say, go hunt the quarterback, something we don't have, right? It brings a whole different skill set to all of our guys, which are all very similar, minus kind of JJ. But I'm super excited to see what we can do with him. He's like Nolan Smith, right? You remember him, the Eagle?
Yeah.
Out of Georgia. He's bigger than him, but I think he's going to have kind of a similar role. Just you have one job. That job is to go sack the quarterback. Don't worry about anything else. Just go get him. And I think that could be really impactful for us late in games, potentially. I'm super excited about this guy, not just because I got it right, but because he brings such a different skill set to the position than we already have.
We saw firsthand how Nolan Smith can be a problem.
Yeah, absolutely. It doesn't matter about run defense on 3rd and 15, right? Immediate pressure matters. And this is a guy that can get immediate pressure. Most of our edge group can't. Not easily, right? Walking back a tackle into the lap of the quarterback generally doesn't happen super quickly. This is a guy that he can the tackle may not even touch him on some of his reps, right? If he wins, he's going to win immediately. And that's something we don't necessarily have.
Agreed. Speaking of guys that fit a very specific need, 6th round. Well, I guess we did go back to Georgia after all.
We did.
Warren Brinson, defensive tackle, 6'5", 310. He just seems like a straight-up nose tackle. He is the T.J. Slayton replacement. He was a national champion at Georgia. I mean, he's a typical defensive tackle. Big, strong hands, demands a double team, doesn't seem like he gives us a whole lot in the pass rush. So, you put Mr. Brinson in the early downs, and then you can let Oliver clean up afterwards when they're tired from dealing with his 300-pound frame. But, I mean, I'm happy that we did add another body to the room.
We needed one.
So give me a straight-up nose tackle. I mean, that's what T.J. Slayton was. Granted, towards the end, did he start to give us a little more in pass rush? Yes. But when we drafted him out of Florida, he was just a 6th round big man, and this is what we got here. Welcome to the squad.
Yeah, no, he kind of helps fill that role. I think if anything, he'll probably beef up a little bit because he's, 310?
310.
Something like that. So what's interesting about him is he wasn't necessarily the best of the nose tackles at Georgia, right?
Which is then funny because his running mate, Nazir Stackhouse, we picked him up as
too.
One of our first undrafted free agents.
Correct.
So we got them both.
One of them's going to be okay, right? That's probably what we're going for.
And the other one is probably on the practice squad if he's not claimed.
Exactly.
So,
one's going to make the 53, one's going to go on the practice squad. And then that way we'll kind of have two big boy run stuffers. And that's kind of, I think Brinson has a little bit more athleticism to him. So there's a little bit more long-term pass rush potential. None of that's really realized yet, but down the road there could be a little bit more something with him. So I was excited to see it at this point in the draft. I think we were both probably thinking like, are we gonna get a defensive tackle? We need someone that weighs over 300 pounds, preferably by a lot. Just anybody, anybody. Kenny Clark cannot be our nose tackle all the time, right? We need a backup to him to spell him at least a little bit. So I was glad that we picked up somebody, and then even happier in free agency when we picked up his buddy there at Georgia.
Mm-hmm. Got a lot of beef in that defensive tackle room.
I love it.
Sticking on defense, we're now in the 7th round. Green Bay Packers making history here, Lucas.
Ooh.
This is the first time, as per Packers.com, since 1954 to 55, that Tulane had a player selected. If you remember, we took Michael Pratt, quarterback out of Tulane last year.
We did.
Not great.
Didn't work out great. He ended up at Tampa, I think.
Maybe on a practice squad.
Yeah.
I don't know, but he was not fantastic. We were both so hyped for late round quarterback, one of us in particular, but not the move. Instead, we take cornerback Michael Robinson in the 7th round. He's 6 foot tall. The film study, there's not a whole lot. I believe he had 2 or 3 interceptions last season. Real confident guy. Just listening to him talk kind of reminds me of Carrington Valentine. Does seem
also
to have
a 7th round pick.
Also 7th round pick, but just all the confidence in the world. He's like, when the ball's in the air, my eyes are on it. It's mine. Love that.
You have to have that.
You have to have that confidence as a cornerback if you're going to make it in the NFL. It seemed to me like Tulane ran a lot of zone. I don't really know how much faith they had in their athletes. So, a lot of his coverage reps are just sitting in Dom Capers' defense where he's, 8 to 10 yards off the line of scrimmage in zone coverage. I don't know if that means that he can't press. I wasn't in the mind of the defensive coordinator at Tulane, but
he's got decent size for it. At least
he's got decent size. He didn't seem super stiff in the hips. I don't remember what his 40 time was, but coming into Green Bay, I mean, he's looking at being corner 4 or 5. So this is going to be a really important preseason for him because. Yeah. As we'll go to later, that's probably one of the weakest spots in the roster, behind our main 3 corners and then Mr. Bullard. So happy we at least added something to the room. I'm sure we'll get into it later, and we kind of touched on it earlier that we would have liked to see a corner earlier. Yeah. Most of them had injury concerns, so let's take a flyer on him and see if he can make the squad, and maybe just let us cringe less if we have to go to that corner 5 in a case of emergency.
It's always good to draft more corners. We do not want another Ladarius Gunter situation on our hands, right?
Pat Lee came to mind.
Pat Lee's a good one. So, yeah, Micah Robinson played most of his career at FCS Furman and then kind of took the step up to Tulane. another guy where they take a big step up in competition and still look good, which is a good sign that they can kind of adapt to a new level, and hopefully gives you hope that they could take that to success and do the same thing at the NFL level. Good size, good speed, if I remember correctly. Like a 4.3 guy. Terrible agility, apparently. Just terrible agility in the drills. So that's interesting. Very much not what we normally go for. We tend to value agility very highly in most of our positions, especially at corner. But that also makes sense with some of the zone stuff you were talking about. That's more see something, fire, right? That's a lot more backpedal, charge, right? A little less side to side. You don't have to follow someone across the field or anything like that. So that makes some sense. Not much to say besides that. I mean, he's another guy to add to the room, and hopefully one of these late round corners can kind of turn into something like Carrington Valentine did. If we can get another one of them, another Valentine out of King or Robinson, we'll be in good shape.
And realistically, if he's in the game, you can't become too predictable, but you would think that they would protect him. They would probably call more zone, let him sit back, make sure he's got X over the top, and be like, all right, kid, just hold down the fort.
Right. Just don't screw up too bad, please.
Just don't put him in press man on Julio Jones. I mean, if it comes to that, we're already cooked, right? It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at that point.
For our last pick of the draft, we took John Williams, not the composer from Star Wars. Unfortunately, would have loved him.
It would have been great.
Fantastic music. Oh my gosh. Can you imagine all the moments this season with him composing?
Be phenomenal.
No, instead we took a rocket scientist who also plays offensive tackle, John Williams, 7th round pick out of Cincinnati. He majored in aerospace engineering.
Love that.
So
smart
he's
guy.
Wicked smart.
Smart guy.
6'4", 322. I mean, he's a 7th round offensive lineman. He's stiff.
Good size.
Good size, but there's a reason he was taken so late. So he's going to be, potential backup. Could he pull a Rasheed Walker and somehow become a starter eventually? Well, maybe if we didn't draft Anthony Belton. I'm happy to have another body to throw in that room, see what comes of him. But, I mean, out of anybody on this list, I am watching him the least.
And here's why you're wrong.
Oh.
Here's why you're wrong. One simple fact. Okay? One simple fact. He's not just John Williams, offensive tackle from Cincinnati. He is Illinois' own John Williams, offensive tackle from Cincinnati.
Here we go.
He is Bolingbrook's own John Williams, offensive tackle from Cincinnati.
Why?
So
Why?
I've been waiting for this for 2 months.
Having such a good show. You did you say this in the draft and I forgot?
Nope. I kept it quiet. So yeah, he's now my favorite backup offensive lineman on the team. Yeah, he's a big dude. He's stiff. He's not super athletic, right? Although if he was, he would have been taken in the first 3 rounds. That's just kind of what happens. But maybe a guard, maybe a tackle. Not too sure. Just added more depth to that offensive lineman room. You can never have too many. Just keep drafting them. Sometimes they turn into Rasheed Walker or Zach Tom, Dave Bakhtiari, right? You just keep taking them and see what happens. Left tackles are generally the best offensive linemen on their college teams, so you just keep taking left tackles. Just take as many left tackles, college left tackles as you can. Put them wherever you want to. That's kind of our MO. Same thing's going to happen to John Williams. But he has the benefit. He's the advantage of being Illinois' own. So, one to watch.
And he's a composer too, Lucas. We can't forget that. And a rocket scientist and Illinois' own.
I mean, this guy, he's got everything going for him.
Swiss Army knife in the 7th round.
Thank you. Love it.
Attaboy, Goody. All right, so beautiful draft recap, as always. Let's circle back. Let's go position by position. Just do a little recap. Okay. Who's still here, who's not, and overall, stock up, stock down.
Sounds great.
All right, quarterback. The savior, Jordan Love, is still here. No worries there.
He's there. We're good.
Unlike last season, we do have Malik Willis, so he'll be in for all of OTAs and preseason and all that jazz.
Yep.
Might Malik Willis be auditioning in the preseason for a future starting job?
Possible.
I would say nearly absolutely. Unless Malik loves the Packers as much as we do, unless he somehow takes a massive step back from what we saw on the field from him last season, there's absolutely no way that he does not go up and light up the preseason. He looked phenomenal in the games that we saw him last season. Obviously, the offense looked a little different, had some more Malik-friendly plays, a lot of read option, a lot of rollouts and whatnot.
As it should, play to your strengths.
As it should. But he did that against NFL starters, folks. And he's going to be in against backups, against third, fourth string guys. It's going to be a massacre when Malik is in. So happy he's here. Love him. We did pick up a Tyler Algersma out of Canada.
Yeah, big dude, big arm. So apparently he's been looking pretty decent in camp. He's going to be our practice squad quarterback. Or we keep him instead of Clifford. But apparently he can really sling it.
Only other thought potential in my head is if Algersma really kills it, and so does Malik, and somebody sends us a crazy trade offer for Malik, it would have to be a lot. And Algersma would really have to show up, but not outside of the realm of possibility.
I doubt that happens just because this is Malik's last year on his contract, I believe. I imagine he probably walks. I doubt we're going to get that potential trade draft pick, but I'm all for it if it happens. I don't think it's necessarily going to happen, but overall I feel really good about this quarterback group. Look, once you get to quarterback 3, you're screwed anyways, right? So Clifford, Algersma, doesn't really much matter. If we're at that point in the season, it doesn't matter. So I feel great about Jordan Love coming back healthy this year, right? I feel great about Malik getting some more time. He apparently has been lighting it up in camp. So I think quarterback room, we could definitely say, check. We look great.
Just do a little throwback to when Love went down, and someone on the show said that we will rally around Malik Willis and we will play good football. And one of us went to that game because he knew that Malik needed him, and look what Malik did.
Yep.
Just had to throw it out there. Just had to.
That's fair.
To the running back room we go. Josh Jacobs. What else more needs to be said? What else needs to be said? This man may have just been a Raider, and we know about the autumn wind. We know it's a Pirate. We don't need to go back there. But was there a single player who bled more green and yellow in Philadelphia in that playoff game?
Nope. Dude was on it.
Absolutely not.
I have a little something about Josh Jacobs as well, if I may.
It's going to be your whole racing thing that I saw he was driving a car or something.
100% it is. So I was in this last week. I was north of Cheddar Curtain. Okay. I was in beautiful Elkhart Lake, Wisconsin, which, by the way, folks, everyone should go visit. Phenomenal little town, adorable little town, beautiful lake, and you'll just be walking down the street, and there's like $1 million car sitting on the street, right? Because the people there love cars, love racing. It's been there since the 50s. Phenomenal, right? Amazing. But he got to ride along, because at the IndyCar race, which is why I was there, every year they do a ride along of some local celebrity. Okay, so there's a 2-seat version of the racing car. They put him in the back seat and they rip around the track with obviously a trained driver in front. And then part of it's just the reaction of oh my God, it's crazy, so fast, right? But
a race car fast? What?
Crazy. And this time it was Josh Jacobs, which was cool. But also, what I'm here to say a little bit is when they interviewed him right before he went out, it was really hot, right? It was hot here. It was just as hot there. It was 95, 96 degrees day of the race when he was there. So he had his fire suit open and hanging off. It's like a coveralls type situation. So just chest, from his waist up, he just had a tank top. Man looks in great shape, I think he is ready to go for the season. He seems like he's on it. He loves racing now. So I'm all for it. He's going to have a phenomenal year.
In the reaction of him in the car, was he freaking out? Or I'm guessing he was just this is me after I bounce off a linebacker. This ain't nothing.
Honestly, what's interesting because people have very different reactions to this because they do it at every IndyCar race. Somebody local-ish. And what was super interesting about him is he didn't really say anything. But, he didn't seem freaked out. But his eyes were going back and forth like crazy. He was trying to take it all in. The first thing that came to mind while watching it was, running back vision. You know what I mean? He was taking it all in. He was analyzing what was going on around him. I loved that because lots of times people are just oh my God, they're just freaking out because of the speed and the G's that they're pulling. But he seemed to just be taking it in, trying to understand what was going on around him. Felt very much like he had his running back vision on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, and we saw what we paid him. He ain't shy on a couple G's. It's Josh Jacobs, man. Come on.
he had plenty of chains on, that's for sure, and they were shiny. So, yeah, some of that money definitely went to that, but that's all right. He had a great time. It was cool to see him.
So at RB2, we have the enigma that is Marshawn Lloyd.
He exists, probably.
He exists. Matt LaFleur says he's looking great in preseason. There's all this spry and this hope. I can't quite put a finger on it, Lucas. I'm just skeptical. Like, once we're in the regular season and I see him taking carries, I'll feel confident. But just with all of his bad luck with injuries last season, he sounds like a great idea. It'd be fun to have a good, shifty scat back. We love that idea. We love him as a nice change of pace for Josh Jacobs.
He's got big playability.
Kind of thunder and lightning. It'd be great.
Mm-hmm.
If he's there, wonderful. Can't wait. But until then, we'll see if he actually plays. And behind him, we have Chris Brooks and Emmanuel Wilson. Emmanuel Wilson plays running back phenomenal when it's just running the ball. When it comes to being a pure ball carrier, he's great. He blows Chris Brooks out of the water. He might even be better than Marshawn Lloyd. He's fantastic.
Great vision, strength, speed, balance. Yep.
Not as good out of the backfield, not as good as in pass blocking, whereas Chris Brooks is just good at everything. He's not great. Nothing is elite, but he is a fine RB3. I would guess, if Lloyd is actually healthy, I wouldn't be surprised if we only keep 3 as opposed to 4. And it'll just come down to, do you want, between Emmanuel Wilson and Chris Brooks, do you want the best runner of the football, or do you want the more rounded player that you can have protecting Jordan Love on a 3rd and 16? I'm probably okay with either option.
Yeah, I'm okay with either one because some of Emmanuel Wilson's upside is Marshawn Lloyd's upside, if that makes sense. They're both more big play threats than Josh Jacobs, so I could see some overlap there, but I wouldn't really care either way. The good news is I feel much more confident this year than I did last year in the running back position because we saw Emmanuel Wilson do it a little bit more. We have Chris Brooks, who came out of kind of nowhere, right? So that's a good option. And we have in theory, Marshawn Lloyd. So we know Josh Jacobs' bad year in Vegas was a Vegas problem because he looked phenomenal last year. So definitely, right, we're supposed to be doing stock up, stock down, right? Stock up for the running back room.
Indeed. So the next room would be the fullback room. However, there is no fullback currently on the roster. And I will be making many listeners sad by informing you that Josiah DeGuara is currently on the Arizona Cardinals after his contract was not renewed by the Jaguars, so we can't go pick him up. I'm sorry, folks.
That's what the Anthony Belton pick was for. Moving on.
All right, to the receiver room. So we'll just go directly top to bottom. Christian Watson, Jaden Reed, Romeo Doubs, Dontavian Wicks. That's 4. Mm-hmm. Bo Melton from last season, Malik Heath from last season. We picked up Mecole Hardman in free agency, which apparently during OTAs, he had like a 75-yard touchdown from Jordan Love.
He had like game-winning touchdown catches on back-to-back days, I think.
Yeah.
During the 2-minute drills.
Big stock up from Mecole Hardman. Just a little typical Packers cheap flyer deal. Mm-hmm. Someone who kind of fell out of favor in Kansas City and then didn't do anything on the Jets. He's still young. He's only like 27. So
he's the oldest one in the room.
Yeah, he's still young, and he's the oldest one in our room. That's just how it goes. Obviously, as we talked about, we picked up Matthew Golden and Savion Williams. And then we have other guys that are on the team but are not making the squad, so I don't really care at this point.
We already listed way too many players to make the team. So
this is an interesting wide receiver room. I think the first 4 that we talked about are safe, with Christian Watson starting on the PUP list.
Yeah, the first 4 plus the rookies.
Plus the 2 rookies. So then it comes down to Bo Melton, Mecole Hardman, and Malik Heath. I think Malik Heath is gone. You try to bring him back on the practice squad, but he did look fine.
Yeah, no, he can play in the NFL.
So I wouldn't be surprised if he's picked up. I would have thought before OTAs that Mecole Hardman would also be looking on the outside, looking in, but he has just made the most of his opportunities.
And he gives us some return options.
And Bo Melton apparently is Travis Hunter because, folks, we need another cornerback, and now Bo Melton's playing cornerback too. So he's not fully converting to playing cornerback.
He's just playing both.
He's just playing both.
And he's also on our kickoff team, kickoff return team, punt team, and punt return team. He one day he practiced on the first units of all 4 of those.
Core special teamer.
All 6 of those. That's crazy.
And he has had moments as a wide receiver. I mean, remember in Philadelphia? In Philadelphia, I was like, bro, they're literally playing like cover 2 man and afraid of Bo Melton. It's going to be interesting to see how things work out. I've seen some early pre-roster, preseason predictions that maybe we have to keep 7. That we keep Bo Melton to play both, and then you keep McCole Hardman to be a returner. This is going to be a big preseason battle. I think there's 2 or 3 rooms that have like marquee battles to watch this preseason. And I mean, also include Malik Heath, even though I think he's probably going to be out, but Malik Heath, Bo Melton, McCole Hardman. And the answer just may be that if they all play so well, and maybe some of the other position groups that we're talking about, we just go 1 less, right? So maybe if those receivers play that well, it means that we have to cut Chris Brooks or Emmanuel Wilson. It's going to be very interesting roster dynamics, not only in the individual position battles, but how those positions perform and how that affects how many players we keep in other rooms.
Absolutely. This is definitely, as far as cuts go, I think the room to watch, right? I think probably one of the rooms we're going to talk about next is maybe going to be more impactful because it has more starting battles. But as far as end of the roster, I mean, Matt, we could easily have 7, 8 wide receivers that deserve a roster spot and just not able to do it. Christian Watson being hurt helps a little bit for a while, but then we're just gonna have to cut somebody later. So yeah, fascinating. And shout out to Bo for being flexible. Hopefully he's talking to his brother Max, who was a cornerback at Rutgers as well.
2nd round pick, by the way, high pedigree.
I wanted him, right? He was very similar size, obviously, speed and everything. So it should be interesting. It should be really interesting between what Bo's doing. We know Malik Heath brings kind of a backup big body, which is nice. Not something that the rest of the team really does, right? Between Melton and Hardman. Good blocker, solid hands, possession receiver. We don't have a ton of those outside of the starters. So interesting. And then Hardman just making a bunch of plays, flashing, being the veteran presence, and potentially a returner. There's a lot. There's so much. Those are such useful players, all 3 of them, that are way better than I think most teams' wide receiver 6.
And McCole Hardman is one of the handful of people on this earth that has a game-winning touchdown, like as time expired.
In the Super Bowl. Yeah.
In the Super Bowl. Against who, Lucas?
I don't know. Who was it, Devin? Who was it?
Those goddamn San Francisco 49ers.
Yeah. So he knows how to beat the enemy. Now they're kind of in a weird spot financially, so they may not be too much of an issue going forward. But
Lucas, they are always the enemy. I don't care if they're 0-15. They're not getting that one against us. Absolutely not.
I love it. So yeah, really interesting group. Preseason's going to be huge for these guys. Camp and preseason's going to be huge.
Remind me when we get to corner, if I fail to mention it, bringing up Bo Melton.
Yeah, we have to talk about them both, right?
Perfect. Offensive line. Now, historically on this show, I like... okay, I guess, tight end quickly. It's already... The important ones are like locked in stone.
Yeah, 100%. Tucker Kraft, Luke Musgrave.
Tucker Kraft 1, Luke Musgrave 2. I mean, if we could see more Luke Musgrave this season, it would be phenomenal. The vertical upside could be awesome. The verticality would be great.
Even just
speed.
A full year of Tucker Kraft is great. I want more Tucker Kraft. All the Tucker Kraft.
Love Tucker Kraft. Would love to see Luke Musgrave live up to his potential. That would take this offense to new heights.
100%. 100% it would.
Behind him, it's John Fitzpatrick and Benny and the Jets, Ben Sims.
Which I feel great about as third tight ends that are going to predominantly be relied on blocking. That's great. I feel great about that room.
I'd like to see John Fitzpatrick catch a pass.
That'd be cool. But they're all... Another cool thing about that room is how young they are, right? They're all ascending. They all could be great this year, right? Now, Sims and Fitzpatrick, great may have a slightly different definition, but that room being so young and just full of potential while still being good, I love that.
Offensive line.
This This one's a little murky.
So I don't super care to go into like the depth of Kadeem Delfort. I just want us to talk about
after the playoff game. No,
absolutely not. I just want us to go over the starting five, and I'm actually going to let you lead this one because I have a tendency on this show to forget that certain offensive linemen on this team exist.
Okay.
As I've embarrassed myself before.
Well, let's work on this one together then, right? Left tackle, Rasheed Walker. Okay.
Yes.
We'll go through the starters and then some potential position battles afterwards.
Indeed.
Okay. Left guard, Aaron Banks.
Banking on
new
it.
to the team, right? Was a little up and down in San Francisco during his career there. Still a relatively young guy. 26, 27 years old. That sweet spot we always pick up free agents at. But was really good when Trent Williams was in. Was not good when Trent Williams was out. So
we would also be much better with Trent Williams in next to us.
We would be. So that's interesting. Their backup left tackle was really bad, as we saw when we played them. So interesting dynamic there, but that's pretty solidified. We have good old Elgin Jenkins playing center this year. So that'll be interesting. First time in
Hall
a while.
of Fame center.
Hall of Fame center, right? Yeah, right guard, we got our boy, potentially. Oh, excuse me. We have why am I blanking on his name, my man?
Jordan Morgan.
Jordan Morgan, maybe.
Sean Ryan.
With
the purple hair.
We have Sean Ryan, maybe, probably. And then a right tackle, we have Zach Tom. So, kind of as you alluded to, we have a couple position battles, potentially. Jordan Morgan's involved in most of them.
Except for center. Jordan Morgan can play anywhere.
He can play anywhere. Is he our starting right guard? Maybe. We'll find out. Is he actually our starting left tackle? Probably not, but possible. Right? He's not going to be our starting left guard, but there's so much potential movement here. Does Belton get in anywhere? Right? Does he start pushing Rasheed Walker? Probably not. Is he even our sixth offensive lineman who's a swing tackle? Is that Jordan Morgan? Man, I have no idea. We have Monk. We have Jacob Monk, who's taking some reps with the first team while Jenkins was out. He's our backup center. He can also play guard. There's so much going on in this offensive line room, and we just keep adding to it, right, with Illinois' own John Williams. And with all these different position battles, it's like really we know three positions for sure. Banks, Jenkins, Tom, right? Those three are going to be solidified to start the year. The other two could be any of like 4 people. So really interested to see how that plays out and kind of where we take that long term. Obviously, we alluded to it earlier. Don't think Rasheed Walker is going to be back next year probably. It's just going to be too rich for our blood when we have this many options. And at some point, you keep drafting offensive linemen. They need to play at some point, right? If Jordan Morgan doesn't win either job this preseason, he better start at left tackle next year or right guard. Right,
because Cooper DeJean's already playing, and we could have had him instead. Sorry, triggered.
Correct. So that's tough. And Jordan Morgan, he's looked fine, right? He's not a bust or anything.
He hasn't. We haven't seen
enough
much
of him. He looked fine at right guard in last year before he got hurt. But like he's got to see the field at some point. We need to know what we have in him, right? Belton's not going to play this year, essentially, right? Unless there are a bunch of injuries.
All right, here's a take.
Yeah.
Assuming your starting 5 is right,
which I feel pretty confident about, outside of maybe
I would agree
Jordan
with that.
Morgan. Yeah,
I'd agree with that. And Anthony Belton and Jordan Morgan are both backups. I am going to predict that Belton would get more snaps this year than Jordan Morgan.
Oh, wow.
Simply because of the sixth lineman idea.
Are we turning into the Lions?
We're not turning into the Lions, but if you have somebody that big, bro, like we can't have another top 2-round pick just sit on the bench and do nothing for us.
I think
you have to find a way to utilize him. He is a mountain of a man. He is a mountain pretending to be a man, Lucas.
Okay, that's pretty solid. I don't necessarily think you're wrong, but we already have Jordan Morgan that we need to find snaps for, right? Are we going to do the little rotation thing at right guard? Or are we going to do the rotation thing at left tackle? Are we going to do both? Who knows, man? Who knows?
Okay. You brought up the Lions comparison. Dan Skipper, their 6th offensive lineman, right?
Yep.
Granted, now, he was their 6th best offensive lineman, so it's easy to bring him in.
Mm-hmm.
But Belton is a behemoth.
Yeah.
And he's only the 7th. He's not like the worst one. He's just huge, right? He's either the 6th or the 7th. He could be better than Jordan Morgan. We don't know. I don't think it's a stretch that you'd want to put him on the field to create massacres up front. Not mismatches, massacres. Put in Anthony Belton. Thank you.
Fair enough. I think going into the season, we have maybe more questions than answers. I feel good about our starting offensive line, but both long-term and the potential of it are just feel up in the air at this point, right? Is Jenkins going to be that good of a center? He's supposed to be. He was years ago, right, at this point. Can he be this year? Are we going to see any issues with that? You know, they really, really like Josh Myers and all the other stuff he did. Is Jenkins going to be as good at the other stuff? Protections and whatever. Is Jordan Love going to run all the protections now? There's a lot of the little stuff that we just don't know. And long term, I have no idea who's starting next year, you know. But this preseason, this year, is going to go a long way to determine that. And this room is kind of just a big question mark for me. But I know that the floor is still pretty good, if that makes sense.
And it's nice with the starting five that you recommended, which a lot of people are on the same page with you, that we do have Jordan Morgan and Anthony Belton as watertight doors.
Yeah.
So even if an injury strikes, we hit an iceberg, you still got a couple watertight doors. We're not putting Kadeem Telford out there, hopefully.
We thought that last year too. But yes, you're absolutely right. More good, versatile offensive linemen is always better.
To defense we go. The defensive tackle first. So we got Kenny Clark, number 1.
Okay, yep.
Carl Brooks, also listed defensive tackle, who is just Mr. Effort. Love Carl Brooks. What was it, a day in like March I texted you, and I was like, bro, Carl Brooks is the truth.
Yep.
The effort on that man, he only plays a handful of snaps a game. But when he's on the field, he is going to do something. He's going to block a kick. He's going to force a fumble. He's going to recover a fumble from Kishner McCaffrey 40 yards down the field because Carl don't quit.
Love it.
An ascending folk hero right before our eyes. Colby Wooden. Colby Wooden's been having some Colby Jack cheese lately because he's put on a little bit of weight.
Which is good.
Says that he wants to play more nose tackle, so add him into the mix. And then we have Nazir Stackhouse and Warren Brinson, both of our Georgia Bulldogs.
Devontae Wyatt, the third Georgia Bulldog. Or is he an end?
Oh,
he's an end.
I guess, I don't know if I'd call him end or tackle, but yes. So now we have, if we're going to call Wyatt a tackle, which is probably more fair, we now have 3 Georgia Bulldog defensive tackles. So I would say overall, pretty decent about the room. I still believe in Devontae Wyatt. I still believe in his ascendance. I think he had some good moments last year. Colby Wooden puts on a little bit of weight. Carl Brooks is a folk hero. And then maybe Brinson or Stackhouse can be a light replacement for TJ Slayton. Wouldn't have minded picking up a bigger name in free agency. Wouldn't have minded a little bit earlier of a investment to get a Mauler defensive tackle. That was definitely an area where we could have improved our productivity. Overall, I'm at peace with what we've done.
I think the hard part, at least in the draft, is all the big boy defensive tackles, nose tackles, got picked really early.
They flew. They flew.
Kenneth Grant, Talik Williams, TJ Sanders, they all went so early that even by the time of our second-round draft pick, like, all the good options were gone, right? The Giant from Kentucky, Walker.
What about the Giant from Florida? The guy who's like 450 pounds?
Yeah, he's on Tampa Bay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just they all went so early that I get Goody being like, whoa. No, these guys aren't worth that, right? We're not going to do that. We'll figure it out. We're just going to take the entire Georgia defensive tackle room. It's fine. Now I wish we had the good Georgia defensive tackles, like the Eagles room. That'd be cool, but that's all right. So I feel okay. Nose tackle's tough because I think TJ Slayton really had been kind of coming on the last year or two and solidified himself. Now, he only played like 40% of snaps, so it's not a crazy amount of snaps we have to replace. Kenny Clark had a foot injury, right, all of last year, something like that?
Yep.
So that came out that got hurt in week 1 against the Eagles. So that kind of could potentially explain some of, kind of the down year for Kenny Clark. So hopefully he seems to be healthy, so hopefully bounce back year from him. He's going to have to play a lot of nose tackle, which I don't love. Wyatt was coming on a little bit. The thing about Wyatt, this dude's really old, right? We're like running out of time with him. So,
Lucas, he's like 26, 27.
No, he got drafted at 24.
Okay, but also, as a defensive tackle, you can still be great at like 33.
The problem is he's not great. I'm saying he's getting to the age where like you kind of are what you are at some point.
He's getting better. Tread lightly. I'm a Devontae Wyatt truther and always will be.
I understand that. I'm just saying that by age 28, defensive tackles are great or they're not great. They can be good, but you don't just see them randomly ascend at 30. You know what I mean? So we're kind of getting there with him. He's on his 5th-year option. Right, we picked that up. But
hey, Lucas,
yes.
let me pause you real quick. Devontae Wyatt was born March 31st, 1998. He is 27 years old. And after this year, you will say he is great. Mark my words. It's June 25th, 2025.
That'd be great. I would love that.
Will be great.
I'm just saying, he's in his generally the prime of his career as a defensive lineman, right?
Entering.
We just haven't seen it yet. So we're kind of getting there with him. We're paying him a lot of money on that 5th-year option. So interesting there. The new Georgia guys will just be TJ Slane replacements, hopefully, like we talked about. Between the two of them, one of them should be fine. That's kind of the goal there.
And jacked Kobe Wooden.
And jacked Kobe Wooden. Well, hopefully it's jacked. But he hasn't really done much for us. Obviously, we're both huge Carl fans. Love Carl. I loved him coming out of college. You hated him. Just going to remind you of that.
It was more so how they designated him, Lucas.
I'm just saying, I was a fan coming out of college, out of Bowling Green.
Yeah, because he was Mac, and you're all, and I use own Mac. Yeah, we know. We all know.
Moving to the Mountain West, so about to a whole different conference full of people I'm going to like. But yeah, if Kenny comes back healthy, I feel okay to good about the room. It's not our strongest, not our weakest.
Definitely need some jumps. I hear that. I do. And I think Devontae Wyatt is listening, and he's going to be like, Devin, I got you. No doubt.
Here's open.
And plus, if we have more snaps to be absorbed, that means that Carl Brooks might be on the field more, right?
Which would be a good thing.
Good things happen when he's out there. All right, defensive end we go. So you got Gary, you got Nessie, you got JJ Enigbari, Devin's own pick. Thank you very much. Braden Sorrell, Mr. Oliver.
Luke's own pick. Thank you very much.
Luke's own. There we go. Defensive ends, bro. We're all over. I mean, and we both picked Nessie. Like,
we're on it.
We could be defensive end scouts. Goddamn, look at us. And you got Brenton Cox and Aaron Mosby. My thoughts on this room. Nessie this season needs to do something or he's a bust.
Yep.
JJ Enigbari, I saw Andy Herman kind of mock a trade with him, like mock trading him away, which I could see as a possibility. I think Braden Sorrell is just going to be a better version of him pretty quickly.
We just don't trade players like that. This is the problem. It's not going to happen.
Trade him for a 7th or a cut candidate, whatever you want to call it, but we're not going to keep all of these guys.
Yeah.
Brenton Cox actually showed a lot in the last half of the season. Like he had, I think, the highest pressure rate of like the last 10 weeks, like by a margin.
Well, he only fell in the draft due to off-field stuff. On-field, he didn't have great production, but kind of coming into college, he was a top tier prospect. Like, it's in there.
I mean, he's been on our team for 2 years now, and the first year and a half, you didn't see much. Like, he wasn't terrible, but when he was in, it was like, oh shit, like it's not Gary
right.
Or it's not Preston or whoever. But end of last season, he really started coming on. So I would like to see him around, and Aaron Mosby can just be in the practice squad. So that makes what? Gary, Nessie, Enigbari, Braden Sorrell, Oliver is 5. And then we're at 6?
Yeah, 6 with Cox.
So 6 feels a little heavy, which is why I think that Enigbari might be the odd man out. I think that we're going to have to do some roster gymnastics to get Mr. Oliver on the field because he is, like you said, very good at 3rd and 18 and just let him go crazy. Put him on the hamster wheel and just hold on for dear life.
Well, I think they may count him also as kind of a off-ball linebacker. You know what I mean? They may save a spot there. Get rid of an off-ball linebacker to keep him type of deal.
Well, based on the off-ball linebackers that we have, that I'd want us to keep, I would be insulted, but we'll get to that soon.
Fair enough. This is a room that I just have 2 words for. Okay? Do something.
I knew it.
I knew it.
I knew it.
It's not fair for the rookies, but everybody else is just like, somebody become great. Like, please. That's what we need. Gary kind of took a little bit of step back. LVN, like you said, kind of on bust watch here. He was dealing with a broken thumb, I think. So last year, so hopefully that cleaning that up can clean up some of the handwork, and hopefully that makes a big difference for him.
And he wins with his hands.
Yeah,
that is his game.
That is.
The punch and rip, he needs that.
Obviously, so the rookies we don't know about. JJ, he kind of is what he is, which is fine. Like, I like him, having him on the team as 4th, 5th edge rusher, right? Somewhere in that range. I feel confident with that. He's not going to ruin the defense being out there. Just somebody needs to do something. Needs to become great. Cox showed flashes. Can he do that in a bigger sample size? That's the worry for me. Can he do that when he has to play more run defense? Not sure. Haven't seen it. But just this is the single room we need people to take big steps this year. If Gary could ascend to that next level of All-Pro, that'd be great. That would make a huge difference. Takes the pressure off some of the other guys. Just somebody needs to take a step or 2 for this room to really kind of play the role it needs to in this defense.
Do something.
Do something.
Smarter words have never been said.
Agreed.
All right, let's talk about the most athletic off-ball linebacking core in the NFL. Why don't we?
Maybe NFL history. Like, it's wild.
So let's just talk about a nice little 4-3 base set, folks. You got Edgerrin Cooper, who was absolutely robbed for Defensive Rookie of the Year. The FBI is actually investigating it, reports say.
He wasn't hurt.
Just kidding. Before I get, what is that term? Falsifying a police report? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, but in our opinion, they should be investigating it, to be clear. Edgerrin Cooper in the middle, absolute God squad. I mean, athleticism off the charts, heart off the charts. Can't wait to watch him all 17 games this season. Next to me, got Quay Walker, who ain't no joke either, and has really been turning it on after flirting with bus material himself.
He looked a lot
No more
better.
temper tantrums. He is in control, but also playing freely, not overthinking, trusting himself. We only got to see one game of the 2 of them next to each other in nickel, and oh my God. I mean, that is how we kept ourselves in the game against Philly.
Just
having 2 Velociraptors out there.
Yeah.
Bro, it's Jurassic Park up in here. Good luck. And then, for a while we thought like, oh yeah, it's going to be McStuffy. We like McStuffy. McStuffy's solid. He's a bit of a folk hero. He's a thumper. He plays his ass off.
Yeah,
he did.
You bring him in on early downs. You take him out when you would anyways and only play with 2 backers. All good.
He did keep up with Saquon Barkley in man coverage first game of the season. Now, Saquon made a hell of a catch, but it was a hell of a catch because McStuffy was all over him. Like gravy, baby. Like gravy. McStuffy. Couldn't pass it on. But after the draft, we signed a former top 10 pick, Isaiah Simmons, out of Clemson. Isaiah Simmons is a linebacker safety hybrid, both in Arizona and on the Giants. And the Giants had to become a key special teams player. And he admitted that after the Giants let him go, that lit a fire under him. And for the first time in his career, he's not being asked to play both. He's just being asked to play a linebacker. And so far, we're getting a good return on investment. He has looked crisp. He has looked physical. Halfley has been singing his praises. And he may not, for sure, be the 3rd linebacker, but I would be surprised if he works his name up there to be the 3rd on the 4-3 set.
I could see that. Unless they wanted more thump. Right, that may be situational dependent. Isaiah Simmons, I remember him coming out of college, just absolute freak. They were like, this guy could be your middle linebacker, he could be your safety, he could be your cornerback. Doesn't matter. He can do it all, right? Which is wild to think about somebody his size. Like, legitimately, people are like, he could play corner. He could do it. Which then leads to some issues in the NFL if he can't handle all of that, which there's nothing wrong with that, right? Some people can, some people can't. He couldn't. That's okay. Maybe it was the way they taught him. Who knows? Doesn't matter. But even last year, he was playing slot corner. Like, that's the versatility level we have here. But the mental part of that is very, very challenging. So let the man learn backer. Let him learn our system. He seemed very thankful for the opportunity we were giving him and the way we were doing it, like you said, by just letting him focus on one position. Let him play special teams. With that athleticism, he's phenomenal at it. I feel really comfortable either with him being that third backer, or I could see, like I said, I could see them wanting more thump, more run stuffing there. But then I feel a lot better if one of Quay or Cooper goes down, that's for sure. Because we have someone that's equally as athletically gifted that could step in, and we don't necessarily have to change the play calls or the way we're designing the defense because we're not losing any athleticism there.
Exactly. So those are like the big four.
Yeah.
And then we also have Tyron Hopper and the Juice Man.
I forgot about Hopper. Yeah, absolutely.
Hopper, big fan. Third-round pick out of Mizzou last year. Looks exactly like Devondre Campbell. Hopefully he'll be good Devondre Campbell, not bad Devondre Campbell. More of a thumper than in pass coverage, but I would say has more athletic ability to not be a liability in pass coverage as opposed to Isaiah McStuffy.
Yep, completely agree.
So I think those five are locks.
I think that's it.
Christian Welch, the Juice Man, this is going to be one of those positional flexibility things. Do we keep Oliver? Do we keep McCole Hardman? Do we keep Christian Welch?
This isn't our 53 man show, but I expect we keep Oliver as our sixth backer.
Oh yeah, I mean I'm not asking.
I know.
For
I'm
the
just saying.
53
I
production,
expect
but just
that.
like
And then
I would like to have him, but it's going to be
on the practice squad.
Yeah, it's just going to be who do you want to have more?
Right.
We're like in an ideal world. Do I feel comfortable having Christian Welch, who was a 4-phase special teamer, who last season we saw him murder people during preseason and look phenomenal? Yeah, I would like to have him, but we have a nice problem of depth in certain areas of this team.
Yep.
And he may just be a sacrificial lamb to the practice squad out of Iowa at the Juice Man. Love you.
An off-ball linebacker is generally not one of those positions where we're making tough choices on cutdown day. It's nice that it's going to be one for once.
Yeah. Well, Lucas, I would counter that with saying we do have tough choices to make on cutdown day for off-ball linebacker because we have to keep some of them.
No, that's what I'm saying. It's that it's nice to we have potentially more off-ball linebackers that deserve an NFL spot than we have spots, which that is unique for us.
Yeah, my joke was that it was hard to choose guys to keep because they're all so bad normally.
Correct. Yes. Fair.
Correct.
Fair.
All right, cornerback. This is one of the biggest ones. Here we go.
Yeah.
So, you have Keyshawn Nixon.
Mm-hmm.
You have Carrington Valentine. I predict those two will start both outside to start the season. We picked up from the Raiders in Autumn Wind Mr. Nate Hobbs, who last year would be the highest rated PFF corner for the Packers. So he performed better than Mr. Valentine or Mr. Nixon. He can play both in the slot and outside, so he has some nice versatility there. And then I'm going to count him as a corner because he pretty much plays only in the slot. Trevon Bullard at 4. Now you do have the positional flexibility where if Evan Williams or Xavier McKinney go down, then you then move Bullard back up. But if that's the case, then the only corners you feel good about on the field are Valentine, Hobbs, and Nixon. Behind that, we have Kamal Haddon. I don't know where the hell he came from. We have Kalen King, the 7th-round pick out of Penn State last year, who reportedly has looked better
which is good,
this preseason.
We did everything in our power to not let him see the field last year.
Yes. Yeah. There were a few times where we had guys out in the cornerback room and we just activated randoms that we'd never heard of before.
Right.
Probably like Kamal Haddon, honestly. We picked up Gregory Jr., who is a 6th-round draft pick of the Jaguars either last year or 2 years ago, saw limited snaps. He was the gentleman responsible covering McCole Hardman on his 70-yard touchdown bomb during OTAs. It's one play. We'll see. Young guy. He's like 5'10". So, he has dreads. That's cool, but nothing really else of note of him. And then Michael Robinson, the draft pick from Tulane. So, top 3 corners, I feel pretty good about.
Yeah, feel good.
I mean, Nate Hobbs is for sure an upgrade over Eric Stokes. And for the last chunk of the season without Jair, we were still a top.
Who's not on the team anymore, Devin?
I'm so far beyond it. I just didn't even acknowledge it.
I'm just glad it's over. I'm glad it's over.
Glad it's over. Luke and I had a meet-and-greet of sorts, if you would, with our fans back in June.
Mm-hmm.
It was May. My apologies. And we were discussing, how we were due. We were due to do a show.
Right.
We had this whole thought process of how if we would have covered the draft immediately right after the draft, that I would have been so upset for not to get a corner, because at that point it really seemed like JR was going to be gone. And in hindsight, I would have been feeling so much better, because at the time in late May, early June, it seemed like contract negotiations were on the table. We had made some progress. He was going to be back.
Felt like he was coming
and
back.
It made more sense. Right? Kind of like with the Isaiah Simmons signing. I think we were both anticipating us adding a body to that room in the draft. And, oh, no, look, here's Isaiah Simmons. Okay, all right, linebacker's good. We didn't draft a corner. I mean, Micah Robinson, 7th rounder, but unless he turns into Carrington Valentine or Sam Shields, you don't want him on the field, which is the exception, not the rule.
Correct. Yeah.
So, okay. Well, it sounds like the contract negotiations with JR were going better than we thought. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. He's back. Yeah, no, he is not. JR is gone. JR is now a member of the Baltimore Ravens. Him and his boy Lamar, teammates at Louisville, reunited, and it feels so good for them. I still like Kevin King better than you, sir. Thank you for your time. Be well.
It's a wild take to end that on. Yeah, it's sad to see him go in some ways, but mostly I'm just happy it's done, right? So I was afraid this is going to keep dragging on. He's not a practice. Look, if you don't want to be here, I don't want you here, right? It's that simple. He wasn't on the field much last year. He's a great player when healthy, and knowing our luck, he will probably go on to play every single game for the Ravens next year and be an All-Pro or something. But we needed to move on, and we needed to plan on taking the field in September without him. So that's what we did. Do I feel great about our signings potentially or draft picks? No, but once again, the draft largely didn't entirely fall in a way that would make a lot of corners available at the times we picked. Trey Amos out of Ole Miss was available in our second round, I believe. That's kind of one of the ones maybe, but part of the hard part about this cornerback group in the draft is all the good ones were hurt. So you saw a lot falling more than we anticipated. Ravel from East Carolina.
Lucas, we're having a good show. Don't even talk about him, bro.
Sorry. Morrison from Notre Dame, right? Everyone was hurt, and they just fell and fell and fell. So obviously medicals were a big issue for us in this draft cycle. Heck, I think even Trey Amos ended up hurt. Everybody was hurt, so we weren't going to try to replace Jair with someone who was already hurt. Fair enough, right? So bring Hobbs in, feel pretty good about that. Love the versatility between the former Raiders. We have so many options in the slot now. It's phenomenal, right? If people go down, it doesn't even matter.
I've seen also a lot that Nate Hobbs is a slightly less mentally ill, higher upside Keyshawn Nixon.
Which is phenomenal.
Maybe unhinged is a better word to use. But Keyshawn seems like he's a little out there sometimes.
Which is good in most ways. But I love that, right? Because Keyshawn's already a good player. If you can fix a couple of those things, now you potentially have a great player. Excited to have Hobbs, way better than Stokes. We wanted more Valentine last year. We're about to get it, potentially. So I'm nervous about the room's depth. If everyone stays healthy, we're okay.
I feel you on the depth. I try to remind myself that, on so many great Packer teams, we think of 2010, 2011, we think about the great secondaries we had, Lucas. You got Charles Woodson, Tramon Williams, Sam Shields, and then Jarrett Bush, and then Pally.
Yeah.
So it's a little more complicated because we don't just have Javon Bullard as a straight corner. I mean, unless someone like Kitano Adapo or Zane Anderson really makes a jump to the point where you would feel comfortable in an event that we have a corner and a safety down, that you could put one of them in instead and leave Bullard at the corner spot. There's some questions and adjustments with that type of question.
Zane looked good.
I also believe that going into this season, this cornerback room is not set. So between the four that we talked about, I would predict that Micah Robinson probably makes the team as a seventh rounder.
Probably.
I wouldn't be surprised if we keep 6. But we also have cut down day, which will be our friend, because the Packers have done a very good job over the years of looking at team players that teams cut on cut down day and snagging them. So I wouldn't be surprised if there is a late, right before the season starts, pick up from somebody that was cut, a nice 6'2" or above corner with dreads that I fall in love with, and you will have to hear his name every single show.
Fair. That's fair. Yeah, we are pretty active with that. Could be a Malik Willis type move in our future. That'd be great.
Safety as we go. Safety is
good room.
Phenomenal room. Not very much to talk about, though. So at free safety, you got Evan Williams going into his second year. That's what we saw out of him as a rookie year. We have Xavier McKinney, absolute god playing football.
Yep, great.
Best safety in the league. Come at me. I dare you. Kitano Adapo, who has the height, who is a thumper. Hurt for most of last season, but I am excited for his physical upside and just with that sort of height, the wingspan. Obviously, he's drafted, fifth, sixth round, so he's got limitations just being that size as a whole. Even if you think of like the best safety in the past 15 years of that size, Cam Chancellor was a little bigger, and he had some deficits.
Right.
You can't be that fluid if you're that big. So you got him, you got Zane Anderson, who I believe we did bring back, so he's still around.
Yes, we did.
And then we got a bunch of Bullard too as well, who's safety hybrids kind of combination. Prefer him more in the slot than out wide. He's a weird feller because Bullard does very well on like crashing down on some run plays and crashing down on like bubble screens. But then like when you get him in open space and safety, he looks lost.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that.
So I think the safety room is pretty straightforward. This is another one where it's just going to come down to, how many can we keep, right? So for sure the locks, McKinney, Williams, Bullard, and then it's Zane Anderson and Kitano Adapo.
And I'm good with that.
Yeah. And then specialists, we go to McMoney. He back, thankfully.
Yep.
And what is it? The Scottish Hammer?
Oh, is that Scottish Irish?
Irish? Yeah. Why am I blanking on his name right now? It's been a long show.
Daniel Whalen.
Oh, Danny Whalen. How did I forget? Don't you know? Okay. So yeah, that is our Packer.
You feel good about that too?
They're both phenomenal. It's just weird watching a kicker go out in the field and not being anxious.
Correct. Yep.
It's also really nice that he's not wearing 44 and named Narvison, the Narv dog. Golly. Remember we thought he was going to be good? We were trying to speak that into existence.
Yeah, I'm upset about the Narv dog, how that turned out, but we're in a good spot now.
We're in a good spot. All right. Well, that is our draft recap. A little bit of a roster preview. Still got a few months. We got preseason to look forward to. I hope that we've been able to give you guys a few things to look forward to in the preseason training camp battles. And we will catch you guys later.
Go Pack, go.
Go Pack, go.